thinners to diffuse it across the surface and mottle it.
Unveil some of the technique that you use to actually do all this.
Yeah, well, I thought BJ was doing some acrylic stuff and some color blending and color theory. And I just thought I'd just very briefly just do a rundown of just washes. What's a wash, how to do it, what sort of effects you can create with it. So yeah, well, this is the first for me, so we'll see how it goes.
Get it.
Could get messy in a hurry, but...
okay, it's got all different washes here.
Yeah.
All different manufacturers for a start.
Yeah, so look, a wash is essentially just a thin down packet. There's nothing more to it than that. There's nothing glamorous about it. And any paint that you can thin, theoretically, you can use as a wash. But generally, the types that are the most popular are either acrylic or an enamel oil-based product. We stock quite a few in the store. We've got the Vallejo range in acrylics, which is very popular. We've also got the Mr. Weathering colour, which is also an acrylic, even though it's in this deceptive bottle, which makes it look like an enamel. It's not. It's an acrylic. And one I don't have here, which is the Tamiya Panel Line washes. I think we've got... Oh, we do.
This one here.
There, that one. I think we've got about 5 or 6 colours now. They've just got a rusty sort of tone one, which looks really good. These are very high quality. I can quite highly recommend these. But if you want to expand your repertoire a little bit, again, as I mentioned, anything that you can thin down, you can use as a wash. So I've experimented a lot recently with just making my own washes, because what I'm finding is that with a lot of modelers, I'm looking at their repertoire of work and it all kind of looks the same, and it's great that everyone has a particular style, but what isn't great is you look at a model and the staining and the discoloration and the weathering is the same everywhere, because that doesn't happen in reality. So it's really good to mix things up, add some brown tones where you think there should be some brown tones, add some black tones where there's maybe soot or engine grease or things like that. Don't be afraid to mix it up. So to that end, I've been experimenting with a few things. I've been making my own with just Tamiya enamels, which we have full range in store, which are very high quality paints.
So you're using a couple of different colors, I guess, to get different tones.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because all the colors are there, you can just mix whatever you want. Yeah, do something different. And the other thing you can do is you can also use oil paints. So I've got these sort of cheapy ones that I got from Eckersley's or somewhere. I've got a few oil brushes, which I bought from overseas, and some more oil paints, Abteilung oil paints. Only downside to the oils is that they work exactly the same as an enamel, but they do take a long time to dry. Like I've done some samples here, which I did 24 hours ago, and I can rub it off with my finger still, but whereas the enamels, they're on. So, yeah, be aware of that. And you can also mix them together. You can mix, if you don't have a particular colour of enamel paint, but you do oil, mix them together. Oils and enamels work fine together. They're really good. So I'll just do a quick. I'm just going to do a quick run through, I guess.
So let's put it aside.
Yeah.
Let's get a top camera working.
Top down. Action happening.
Pushes away. Should be good. Oh, sorry. There we go. We're back. Snap. Okay, cool. All right, I won't touch it anymore.
All right. You guys, nothing. So I just found a couple of old sprues lying around. And I gave them just a coat of light paints, just so you can see the contrast a bit better. So on this particular one, I've got some oil paints on this one, and on this one I've got some enamels. And this is the reason that I prefer enamels to acrylics is that I did these a day ago, and I can now go and work them the next day, the next week. It doesn't really matter. They reactivate, whereas the acrylics don't. So I'll see if I can do this and make sure it's in focus and that I can see what I'm doing.
In the meantime, while you're doing that, I think I've got a few more guesses on the Ford.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a look. We'll have a look in a moment.
Yes.
So yeah, you can see that you can see that I'm reactivating this paint even 24 hours later. It's still coming off. And I'll get into this a little bit in a minute, but the other good thing about it is that on a matte surface you can get a staining effect, which adds to the realism. So you can see that it's darker. It's darker in the panels, and also on the edges here. You can wash the paint into crevices to build up some contrast. And because this is a matte surface, yeah, it'll stain a little bit, but that's a good thing because that's what matte surfaces do. If you have a look at close-up pictures of tanks and like American fighter planes and what have you, they pick up dirt like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, I think that's kind of working. I hope you can see that. And also I recommend not using a good brush for this stuff. Whatever you do, do not use a good brush. Because yeah, it kind of destroys them. But yeah, so that's the enamels. And then with the oil paints are a little bit different. You just kind of got to kind of turn them back into a wash.
It takes a little bit to activate them again.
It does take a little bit. So I'm just going to let that soak in for a bit and then move on. And I'll show you the one thing that I'll show you the difference with is the difference between a gloss finish and a matte finish. The matte finish, you have to use that to your advantage. Like that's going to stain no matter what. But if you want it to stain, then that's going to work really well for you. But if you just want a pure panel line, a gloss or a semi-gloss is going to work better. And I don't know if we can see that.
Yep, it's perfect now.
Yep. So you can see that capillary action is just wicking that through. So you can be really messy with this. You don't have to be gentle at all. Don't have to get it right the first time, because once it sets in, anything that's on the surface you can just wipe off. Now if I try and wipe this off now, it'll more than likely get sucked into the cotton bud. We'll give it a crack and see if it'll do it. Yeah, it did a little bit, but yeah, you can kind of see the effect there. So it's a very simple way to add a lot of visual interest and detail to your kits. And so, for example, on that grosser Hund, it's probably about 8 hours. Probably spent about 8 hours doing washes and general effects. So yeah, you can see how that oil paint is coming off there now quite easily. Okay, you can. So yeah, so you can see that you can do the similar effects with both oils and enamels. So yeah, that's the basics. Not terribly difficult. Don't use good brushes, obviously, like I said. These cotton buds from Mr. Hobby are really good because, I mean, you'd think a cotton bud was a cotton bud, right? But these are actually flat. They're not round. And the good thing about that is that you can see what I did there. I went parallel to the surface. And that way you're not digging into the panel and pulling the paint out. So it's a lot easier to not have to redo it. It'll still happen. You'll still mess up, but yeah, these are really good.
So we have a couple of questions here actually.
Yeah.
So Tony is asking if there is a difference in finishing between acrylics and enamels.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no working time with acrylics. You've got to get in and get out. With the enamels, you can wait days and they will reactivate. The acrylics essentially they once they dry, you've created a layer of plastic. The paint's just dried into a plastic film. So super hard to move. You still can.
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of luck with using say like X20A from Tamiya to kind of move some acrylic washes. But yeah, it's generally a get in, get out kind of situation.
And there is one more question. Do you put a clear coat on top?
You don't have to, no, because it depends on how messy you are. Looks quite often. I'm. This is me being neat. I'm usually a complete mess when I'm doing it. If you're very touchy feely with your models, then doing a clear coat afterwards isn't a bad idea to seal everything in. I generally don't, because after a few days, unless you've got enamel thinners on your fingers, you're not really going to be pulling any paint out of any crevices or panel lines or whatever. So yeah, I think the best thing to do is just to experiment, and don't forget either that a wash isn't just to accentuate the actual panel, the lines. You can use it to accentuate a corner. You can put a wash in there, and especially if it's matte, you can put a wash in there and you can feather it, so you can almost like create artificial shadows in a way. And you can also use it in conjunction with staining. So if you want a particular area to be discoloured, maybe there's been a lot of foot traffic on that particular area, you can use a wash in a spot fashion, and then use the thinners to diffuse it across the surface and mottle it. So it's very simple. It's a very powerful tool. I think like probably about 50% of the weathering that I do, it could be defined as a wash in some various ways. Yeah,
it's a good way to give more depth and it's just a matter of playing with it really and see what works for you and what
absolutely. There's plenty of, they all do the same job. All of these products. Have an experiment.
Have fun.
Have some fun. Yeah, see which works for you. And if you have any little tips and tricks that you like to accomplish with your models, let us know in the comments.
Drop some comments. Yeah.
Look us up on Facebook and let us know.
Absolutely. Share some progress photos again, and we can then put some comments and discuss.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Sounds good.
Fantastic.
No worries.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. So.